excited to be sitting down with Anna Kobza today, and she is another strong woman in agriculture on Instagram and does some really awesome things as far as her graduate program and what she is up to up in North Texas, West Texas. Remind me where you're
Yep,
at.
I'm up in the Panhandle.
Panhandle. So we're going to get into all of that, I hope, here today, and hopefully you guys will learn a lot about what Anna does. But if you wouldn't mind starting off telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I am originally from Eastern Nebraska. I grew up in a little bitty town. I did not come from an ag operation of any kind, not a farm or a ranch, but I grew up in a very rural community. So I was very much surrounded by agriculture, and I grew up doing 4-H in high school. I did FFA as well. So I got very exposed to agriculture, and that's how I kind of came to love it. And I went to school for my bachelor's degree in Nebraska at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I got my degree in animal science. And then I somehow found myself up or down in the Texas Panhandle at West Texas A&M, studying animal science again with a focus in ruminant nutrition. And so that's what I'm getting my master's in right now.
Yeah, so we are both Texas transplants, and we were just talking.
Yes, exactly.
We were just talking about the summer heat. So it's something that I don't know if you ever truly get used to, but it's definitely here. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been really hot for like consecutive days here, and where I'm from, it's hot, but it's also very, very humid. So it's a different kind of heat here.
Yes.
So I'm okay with it, but at the same time, it could cool down just a touch.
Yes, for sure. Well, I want to get into, you said you didn't have an agriculture background as far as
No, nope.
farming and ranching, being actually on a farm and ranch, which
Yes.
is so cool considering what you're actually doing right now. So can you tell us a little bit about why you were interested in getting involved in what you're doing now, and maybe a little bit about what you actually do?
Yeah. So when I was little, all of my life, I come from a big family, and so I had a lot of older siblings that did 4-H projects. I had some older sisters that showed horses, and so from a young age, I showed horses. And then I didn't start showing cattle until I was I think a sophomore in high school, and that was just because those are expensive projects to take on, and so that wasn't something my family could do at the time. But I got into it thanks to the help of a family friend and some producers out in Western Nebraska that wanted to help me out and gave me some 4-H projects, some breeding heifers. And so after that, I just kind of really fell in love with cattle specifically, and I wanted to take that further. And that wasn't until then that I joined FFA, and I had a really good FFA advisor and a really good group of people that were in my FFA club at the time in high school, and so they kind of really all nurtured that passion I had for agriculture and for the beef industry. And so that led me to want to go to vet school. Like every other animal science major, everyone wants to go to vet school at first, but I worked for a veterinarian the summer after my freshman year of college, and I really loved it, but I really didn't love the lifestyle and just what it just kind of was unattractive to me, just as far as in a rural town. He was so busy, he was a mixed animal vet, and his time was really really not his own. So
Yeah.
So as someone who really enjoys time with family and friends, like being able to step away from work is really important to me. So I decided to nix the vet school, and I knew that just after a couple classes that I'd had in my first year of college that I really liked nutrition. And so I kind of was going to run with that idea. I took a few more nutrition classes, and I still really liked it. It kind of came easier to me than the other sectors of animal science. And so I've kind of ended up down here in the heart of feedlot country, studying ruminant nutrition. And so on a day-to-day basis, I work at our research feedlot, and there's a bunch of us graduate students who work out there. We have a manager out there, but we basically run the place. We do all the feeding, the doctoring, the mill work, all the maintenance, that kind of thing. So on a day-to-day basis, especially now during the summer, we're out there pretty well full-time.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does a typical day kind of look? I know that's a hard question because every day is different, but what does it kind of look like?
Yeah. So right now, things are really different for us just because we have a lot of studies going on where it requires a lot of processing and a lot of bringing cattle up. So we have a lot of early processing days. So typically if we have a processing day, we'll start early in the morning so that we can get all of that out of the way before we feed. And we feed at 7:30 a.m. So I have to be there at 6:30 every day to call feed. And then it gives me an hour to call feed, take care of any uh, orts that we have in our feed bunks, and then we can feed at 7:30. And then while someone's feeding, we have a doctoring crew that's pulling cattle and looking through cattle and treating those. And then at the end of the day, we typically save that for any maintenance or any random things around the yard that need done. But all processing we try to do before daybreak, basically.
Gotcha. So for somebody who might be listening and they have no concept of the fact of what a nutritionist for beef cattle is, could you
Hmm.
maybe give us a little bit of a rundown of what that
Hmm.
entails?
Yeah. And it might depend on where you're at and like the level of education of your nutritionist or what their background is. But most nutritionists work for or with feedlots. There's not a lot of cow calf producers that work with nutritionists. It's just
Mhm.
kind of a different, it's just kind of how it is. Feedlots typically have a lot more to spend as far as cash on those kinds of services and things. But as a feedlot nutritionist, you spend a lot of time working with the managers and the veterinarians, balancing rations, formulating diets based on the resources that that feedlot may have available. Some even do a little bit of health protocols, that kind of thing, implant protocols, making sure we're feeding feed additives correctly and then legal limits, all those kinds of things, and all trying to do that in the way that best suits a producer's bank account,
Right,
basically.
right. Yeah. So for you, what is your project or what is kind of your main focus through your research?
Hmm. So I won't get to start that until this fall, and I can talk a little bit about it, but I can't talk a ton about it
Yeah,
as like that's all the research until it's published is pretty
right.
proprietary. But we're going to look at the implementation of byproducts and diets and how it affects performance in the last 80 days of finishing, in the finishing phase of feedlot cattle. But we have a lot of cool research that we do at the yard. Um, and a lot of it is not just pure WT research. A lot of it's like outside people coming in and doing research as well. So we have the opportunity to be a part of those projects and not just our own.
Awesome. I'm sure there's a lot of always different things going on. And as far as, I guess, the cattle, are they purely the university's cattle that you guys are doing research, or is it producers bringing you cattle to utilize?
I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Hooked AF. Anna is changing the game for women in agriculture and women in business. She has a new app that is finally getting ready to launch, Ranch Hand, Your Ranch in Your Hand, that is going to help and change the way you're able to manage cattle on your ranching operation. And then also, if you are a business owner or thinking about becoming a business owner, make sure to check out her retreats. She has an upcoming one in College Station with deadlines to apply quickly approaching. So make sure you check out Anna at Hooked AF for all of her new and upcoming things.
So yes, we do a little bit of both.
Okay.
Some cattle we own, we purchase and we own them through the finishing period, and then some will not be ours. We'll either take them on for a few days, depending on what kind of study we're doing. We'll have them for a couple months or a few months, and then they'll go back to that producer, or sometimes we'll feed them out for them there as well. Just
Mhm.
depends on the space we have in the yard.
Right. And for you being from Nebraska, and I know, so I'm from California. So when I came to Texas, I felt like obviously the same principles of cattle and everything are the same, but they do things a little bit different here. And is that something that you've noticed too, or it's pretty in par with what you guys do in Nebraska?
A little bit, yes. I so like in eastern Nebraska, it's very concentrated in feedlots as well. So I grew up around that, so I'm familiar with that. But I guess it's just like it's just little things. And also there's just like little terms or slang
Mm-hmm.
that are different than what I've heard. Like they say, like I say brockle for like, like a not completely white-faced calf, and
Right.
they say motley.
Uh-huh.
I think, yeah, that's what they say.
Yep.
And so like just kind of little stuff. But I mean, other than that, things are similar enough, I think, as far as feedlots go. I
Yeah.
would say ranching is where your biggest differences
Yes.
are.
Yes. And that's probably a good point. Feedlot wise, it's probably pretty universal. Um,
Yeah.
Everything's got to get fed right to the finished product.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, I was just curious, just because obviously being from out of state, both of us, I was just curious if you picked up on that too.
No, yeah, for sure. And also, I'm not used to, so they feed a lot of high risk cattle down here, which was not something I was used to. Being in Nebraska, we have a lot of like ranch raised preconditioned cattle that fill our
Mm-hmm.
feedlots. And so down here, a lot of the high risk cattle that come out of the southeast and from like sale barns all across the southeast.
Right.
It's kind of, they definitely manage those differently. So that was different for me to see.
Yeah. And okay, I want to take a different turn of events here. So I want to talk about social media because that's how I found you.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you start sharing on social media and kind of get into that whole other realm of things?
Yeah. So when I was in Nebraska at UNL, I was a part of my minor actually was the Angler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program. And so that is a entrepreneurship program that Paul Angler started, which is funny because Paul Angler is the college I go to is named after Paul Angler down here in West Texas. And so I had this idea. This was basically a minor, more than a minor. It was just like a program where people who had ideas and who wanted to start businesses, they had the resources and the tools for them to do so. And I wanted to do something along the lines of ag education or ag experiences for high schoolers and even younger kids, because in my hometown at like the county fair level, we were seeing like a big decline in 4-H livestock exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
And so my initial idea was, well, how do I get these kids access to 4-H projects, get them involved in agriculture? Maybe I can like come up with some kind of like internship program for like high schoolers like we do in college.
Right.
And I just kind of was like shooting in all kinds of directions, trying to figure out how to make this work. And I just kind of it wasn't working. I wasn't going to be able to figure out how to monetize it. And so I just decided, well, if I can't do anything about this right now, maybe I'm just going to like start sharing and teaching myself on Instagram. Like I really didn't know what else to do at that point. And I really had no idea it would turn into what it is.
Right.
And I'm glad it has. It's been great. I don't even really use my personal social media anymore just because it just really doesn't mean anything to me.
I
There's really no
agree.
purpose behind it.
Yep.
It's just a bunch of random pictures that I decided to post, and the ones I post on my ag account are much more intentional and have a purpose behind them. But so that was kind of how I got into it. I was just kind of frustrated and kind of stagnant in my entrepreneurial journey, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just try this. I just wanted to try something. I just wanted to do something.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's grown, obviously. You have quite the
Mm-hmm.
following, and you are sharing things about the cattle industry, agriculture, and kind of the things that you're doing in the feedlot and all that, which is great because I think it shows a very different side of some of the other things that get put out there. But what are some of the challenges that have also come with that?
Mm-hmm. I've kind of struggled to like narrow down like where I fit in this space. I love like the ag education aspect. So teaching people about agriculture, about feedlots, but I also love being able to teach producers things too, because like I do have the ability to teach producers and share with producers information that they may not have. Like consumer connection. But there's also like, oh, I love a little bit of Western fashion. Like, it's just like hard to find your place.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of ag advocacy or just agricultural accounts in general. But I feel like you and I can think of a couple others, are a few of the very young people in this space.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the other people are older, married, kids, they have a different perspective. They're in different phases of their life. I'm in a phase of life where I can't commit all of my time to this social media. I'm trying to get a master's degree. And so it's just, my life's very inconsistent right now. And so that's been kind of challenging too. Something that I feel puts me at a disadvantage compared to other people who have the consistency of being settled down in life. That's where they're at. This is what they can do.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm kind of glad you said that actually, because I feel the same exact way. I feel like I have a lot of stuff going on, and it's something that I obviously want to grow and focus on, but it's kind of hard when you've got 10 million other things going on, and remembering to post that day is not always at the top of the priority list. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think obviously consistency is key with all that, but you have to make it work for you as well.
Yep, I know. Yep. And I have to draw the line at some point. Some days it's just like, just not going to happen today. Like, and it's fine. Okay. It's social media. Like, this is not the end of the world. I will be fine. Like, I don't need to feel guilty about this. And I hate when I feel guilty. I'm like, oh, I should have done this and this and this. And it's social media. Like, it is a tool. It is great, but also it is social media. It is not real life. So real life comes first.
Yep. And you mentioned being, a young person in this field and in the industry and everything that's going on. So we're not only young, but we're young women. And that, I think, adds a whole new layer of challenge and just a different perspective on things. What has been your experience being a young woman in agriculture, especially in a feedlot scenario?
I would say relatively, or mostly, I should say mostly positive. I haven't had a ton of negative experiences. I've had some. That's not to say I haven't, and that's not to say other women haven't had mostly negative experiences. But mine has been pretty positive. At the research feedlot right now, we have predominantly girls that are working there and that are getting our degrees there. So I'm pretty well surrounded by females in the feedlot setting right now. We outnumber the guys, which is not very common in the feedlot setting. It is pretty cool. And it's funny that you say that we're young women, like, doing these ag advocacy, ag pages on social media. And I'm trying to think of like one account of like a young man, like, advocating through social media on their accounts. I can't even really think of one.
No, me either.
Which is not a bad thing. Like, that's fine, but it's just interesting to me that women predominate this space, both in social media and are starting to take over in the real world as well.
Right. Even so, I work for the poultry science department at A&M, and we've noticed just such a change from men coming into the department to now women and girls. And the boys are definitely beginning to be outnumbered in the ag college of ag, which is great. I mean, obviously, I'm not a feminist by any means, but I think it's awesome that more women are feeling like they can belong in that industry and in the space and have a seat at the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's a testament to other young girls who are wanting to enter the space as well. And I think I've noticed a lot too, not just women who come from agriculture, advocating for agriculture, working in agriculture, but even women who didn't come from those backgrounds, who have either married into the space or just kind of fell in love with it, and they've kind of adopted the lifestyle and are advocating for it too, which I think is really awesome. Some people from those kind of backgrounds.
Yeah, sometimes I think those voices are even sometimes maybe more important, just because it gives a whole different side of things, and hopefully will bring in a whole different audience too.
Yes. When you don't grow up in agriculture, you have a whole different perspective of it.
Yes.
But when you start to understand it, you can really help connect the gap that there is between consumers and producers.
Right. And I think that's the $1 million question, right? How do we do that? I don't know. I don't think there's an answer yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're definitely getting closer. It's hard to gauge progress in something like that, because it is such a subjective question, I guess, as to whether or not you're actually connecting with consumers and earning their trust. But yeah, who knows?
deep questions and deep thoughts for another episode, right? Well,
Yes,
Anna,
I'm gonna have to ponder that a lot.
yes, exactly. Well, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule and all of the busy things that you've got going on right now to sit in your truck and chat with me for a little while today. But if you're ready,
Absolutely.
we will move into our rapid fire questions.
Oh man, I'm gonna be so bad at these.
They're honestly
I
so,
think too much.
yeah, they're so random and they're just fun. So
Okay.
the first question is, who is your favorite superhero?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. There you go. A good strong woman. Let's see. What is your favorite hobby?
Hobby. Oh gosh. God, I don't even know.
I know. That's a hard one. Okay, here, let's
I'm
do this one
recently
instead.
getting back in. Okay, there you go.
What are 2 things that are on your bucket list?
On my bucket list. Well, so I've been to Africa, but I would love to go back and see different parts of Africa. So that's on my list. And also, I really want to go to every national park in the U.S. I've been to a few, but I would really love to hit every single one.
Do you have quite a few left, or?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've hit a lot of the ones in the Montana and Wyoming area, but like I still have I would love to hit more further west and then like towards the east as well. But I love national parks.
Yeah, that would be definitely something cool to see all of those. And then last question is, who is somebody that you admire?
That I admire. That's a hard question. I admire a lot of different people. I wouldn't say that there's one person that I like idolize and admire. It's probably a collection of people who hold the same values and beliefs that I do, especially in like the entrepreneurship space. I was surrounded by a lot of those people when in my time at Nebraska, and like all of those people collectively just were like just like a combination of like who I wanted to be. Like there was different parts of those people that I was like, that's who I want to be, that's what I want to do, that's what I want for my life. So that's a hard question for me, because there's really not one person I ever think of where I'm like that person, like that's it. Like there's so many people that have had such a good influence on my life.
Yeah, but I think that's important too, that if there's a combination of people that you can pull different values from, then even better, right?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Well, thank you so much, like I said, for sitting down and chatting with me. And how can people connect with you if they are wanting to follow along on social media or get in touch?
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is @ag.acknowledge. And then I have an email list on there if you ever want to email me for whatever reason. I mean, you can just message me on Instagram. But I am on Instagram and I'm on Facebook too. And I've tried to change my name to Ag Acknowledge on Facebook, but Facebook for whatever reason does not let you like change your name.
Yeah, it's very very picky.
I don't know. It is, and so it's just Anna Kobza, I think, on there. But Instagram is where I predominantly post and am active on, so that is where I would recommend finding me.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to include that, and thank you. And I hope that everything with your graduate program goes well and you stay cool in this summer heat.
Yeah, thanks, Allie. I appreciate it.